Hey guys, how you doing today? We're out here at the lovely Rose Bowl. Wanted to do some videos for you through Run With Us about some injury prevention ideas. We get a plethora of comments and concerns that come to a run shop, just like most run shops across the country, and I would imagine the world, where we become that source of information because not only have we probably been through the injury or the problem, we've figured out ways to take care of them. Me personally, being a coach for 28 years, having my own group here, Fortius Altius Citius Training Fact, and coaching at the university, the college, the high school, and doing a lot of hours in the training room, and having wonderful friends who have been physical therapists and chiropractors and everything, we've kind of gotten a quick idea of how to attack the problem and get right back to what we love doing, which is running. And that's what we're here to do. We can look at some of the most popular types of injuries that happen to runners. Runners have a certain type of mechanics that causes certain injuries in certain areas. I think in the beginning, the most common that I see for people is shin splints. That's kind of the layman's term, shin splints, but it's either a anterior tibialis kind of muscle strain along the inside of your tibia, this lower leg bone here. Kind of starts here and comes down and loops around your arch and then attaches on the bottom of your foot. Most people, they say, from the last information that we've had, it was like 80% of the people overpronate. So you have people when you're walking, and I think it's probably because on the inside of your foot here, there's no bone that really touches the ground. I mean, you could be flat-footed, and sometimes it does touch, but most of the times the bone is elevated, and what holds up that foot is a lot of soft tissue. And eventually what happens is that soft tissue, it just gives, and you get a lot of rotation, which is the way the foot is supposed to absorb the shock of running and walking. So it's your natural little spring. The problem isn't the foot, the problem is that what's attached to the foot. So that tibialis muscle, if it goes down into your foot, then as you land, it will pull like a chain along that muscle. It'll pull it down, and that right there causes inflammation. You figure it's about 1,600 steps per mile, so 800 times per mile you're doing this. If I did this just with my arm, like I'm doing right now, I would be sore, and I'd probably get some type of itis, which is an inflammation. Okay, how do you take care of it? Most people tend to overpronate. So a lot of the runners who have been running most of their lives, it's not a problem because they got used to it when they were younger. But what about most of us who come out and start training when we're older, where maybe we were an athlete before, we haven't been an athlete for a while, we're coming back? It's a lot of pain. We have a plethora of things that Run With Us could help. Arch supports help because it stops that movement of the foot, but you also have strengthening exercises that you can do on your own. There are shoes that have a post in there, a firm counterpiece in there that stops the foot motion. And once it stops pulling, usually it goes away. And it just depends on how much you're overpronating, so how much support you need underneath there. I learned early on that if we take our shoes and socks off and we start walking on grass and start using the foot muscles and working those muscles, then what happens is that you strengthen. And remember, you can't do anything about soft tissue, but you can do a lot with muscle. And it's kind of a fairness thing. It's like, okay, you can't do anything with soft tissue, but you can work the muscle. So if you work the muscle, it'll help support the soft tissue or help the soft tissue support the bone and your body when you're moving. A couple of exercises that we do is if you're sitting at your desk, and let's say I was sitting in a chair here, since I don't have a chair, but let's say I was sitting in a chair like this, in this position, what I would do is I would try to tap my toes opposite, okay, like that. So doing that with my feet turned out this way, it's starting to work that muscle, because that muscle, when you contract it, it pulls up and in that way. So this is how I would contract that muscle, pulling up and in. And you can do this as well, where you pull the foot up and in, because you're kind of doing this like if this was my leg. I'm doing that, which gets on the inside muscle in your lower leg. But when you're sitting at the desk, if you tap alternate, you'll start to feel it kind of burn. And what you're feeling is that muscle activating and getting lactic acid in there. Another one we do is we walk with our heels up. I don't know if you can see that there. So we do this, and then we also do this, where we walk up on the pinky toes, and then we do this, where we push the heels in this way, okay? And we usually go down maybe about 20, 30 meters down the way to kind of get those shin muscles activated. These are good things to do before you actually start your workout to get the shin splints in there. Calf raises work really well because they do activate a little bit of it. The problem is that once you're inflamed, you don't want to do it too much. You want to also keep these supple. So one of the other stretches that we do is if you get up against a wall, which would be just a regular calf stretch here, but if you look how my right leg and my right foot is, I try to push my arch down. See, I'm trying to flatten my foot out as I'm stretching down the soleus. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing down and extending that muscle just to kind of get that stretch in the inside. You can also do icing to bring down a lot of the inflammation. A good way to do that is to get water, fill up a cup of water, and put it in the freezer. And as it freezes over, you can peel away to expose the ice. So you can hold the cup, because if you've ever tried to ice with your hand on ice, it burns. Yeah, not good. So if you take that cup and you dig in there, you can also, maybe before that, you can get lotion and just kind of feel the little nodules and just kind of push them out and massage along that area, and then maybe ice it after. And usually you want to do this at the end of your day so you're not on the muscle anymore and you can recover from it. I think those are probably some of the main things that we use for getting rid of shin splints. But I think the main idea is to support your foot if you're hurting, because if you continue to run, shin splints usually is a precursor to stress fractures. And I know you've heard of that term before, and usually what happens is that you have a fibrous band material, if you kind of sort of like those stretching bands that we use for therapy, and that it's a tendon sheath. We call it a sheath. What it does is it takes the tendon and turns into a tendon sheath, and it attaches to the bone. And the inflammation is so much that it pulls away from the bone, which eventually cracks the bone. It causes these little cracking. It's so strong to pull onto the bone that you would get little fractures there. And that's usually about 6 weeks to recover from that before the bone comes in. And in 6 weeks, you would lose all your fitness. It's better as soon as you start to feel pain, take all the time you can to get rid of it, because you don't want it to turn into anything that's going to stop your progress.